I flew down to my son's place without giving him a heads up and found my daughter-in-law dying alone in the ICU. Meanwhile, my son was cruising around town with some girls in the car I had bought him. I silently called the police and reported the car stolen. 2 days later, when they released him, he crawled back to me on his knees, only to find out I had signed everything over to his wife. Greetings, dear friends. Before I open the doors to my life and share this difficult story with you, I want to ask for a small favor. Please subscribe to the channel and hit that like button. It helps stories like this be heard. And drop a comment letting me know which state or city you're listening from. It would warm my heart to know how far my voice has traveled. Get comfortable. Happy listening. The airport greeted me with a relentless hustle, the bitter smell of over-roasted coffee, and the invisible weight of 1,000 other people's journeys. But I felt none of the anticipatory joy that usually wraps around a mother flying to see her child. Inside, somewhere deep beneath my ribs, a heavy, icy knot of dread had taken root and was slowly turning over. It was this feeling, a mother's radar screaming in silence, that forced me, a woman who plans her grocery lists a month in advance, to drop everything, buy a ticket on the next flight, and travel halfway across the country without a single word of warning. In the leather tote bag slung over my shoulder lay 2 glass jars of homemade blackberry preserves, tart and deep purple, the kind my son, Marcus, would devour on warm biscuits when he was a boy back in Portland. Nestled next to them was a soft, plush rabbit. A foolish gesture, perhaps. Lily, my daughter-in-law, wasn't pregnant, as far as I knew. But in our last strained conversation, her voice had sounded so thin, so fractured, like old parchment, that I just wanted to bring her something that whispered of comfort and innocence. I walked out of the terminal and inhaled the damp, thick air of the southern city. It felt oppressive compared to the sharp, clean winds of home. The phone in my pocket was a dead weight. I had been calling Marcus for 3 days straight. Each ring had stretched into a void, unanswered. Lily had simply vanished from all communication a week prior. You can't fool a mother's heart, the old saying goes. I always thought it was a sentimental platitude until I felt that cold, precise sting of fear for myself. The Uber ride to their neighborhood took 40 minutes. The building that loomed into view was imposing and secure, a historic Art Deco facade with a manicured courtyard. I had bought this condo for them 3 years ago, a wedding gift. I wanted to give them the head start I never had, to spare them the gnawing anxiety of counting pennies until payday. I believed, with the foolish arrogance of someone who has provided, that a foundation of brick and money could guarantee happiness. Lord, how catastrophically wrong I was. Stepping off the elevator onto their floor, I froze. The door to their unit was ajar. Not wide open, but not fully closed, as if someone had left in a frantic rush, the latch failing to catch. A push with my shoulder and I was inside. A stale, sour odor hit me. Not the scent of a home, or of the lavender sugar cookies Lily loved to bake, but of stale cigar smoke, spilled liquor, and underlying neglect. Marcus had sworn he quit smoking. Mom, it's a filthy habit. Bad for the image, he'd said with that dazzling, manipulative smile. The one that had always unlocked my wallet. The entryway was a disaster zone of discarded boots and a scuffed cream wall. In the kitchen, a monument of dirty dishes rose beside takeout boxes, empty bottles of top-shelf bourbon, and a stack of unopened mail, pink and white final notice envelopes. But what stopped my heart was the small, dusty box of medication on the counter. Heart medication, prescribed to Lily 6 months ago. The seal was unbroken. A fine layer of dust coated it, a silent, screaming testament to abandonment. "Can I help you?" a raspy voice inquired from the doorway. I turned to see an elderly neighbor in a faded floral housecoat, her eyes holding a mixture of curiosity and profound pity. "I'm Marcus's mother," I said, my voice miraculously steady. "Where are they? Where's Lily?" The woman's lips pursed. "Honey, your boy. He's out running the streets, I expect. Music blaring, till all hours. But your girl, the ambulance took her. Couple days ago. Carried her out on a stretcher. Wasn't moving. Just a shadow of herself. Ain't seen hide nor hair of your son since." The world tilted on its axis. I don't remember leaving the building or hailing a cab. Only one destination pulsed in my mind, City General Hospital. The ER was a blur of bleach and despair. I, Chloe, who prides herself on decorum, became a force of nature, plowing through protocol until I found her name in the ICU log. Lily Bennett. The intensive care unit was a realm of hushed, mechanical breath. They tried to stop me, but the look on my face, the look of a mother-turned-predator, made the nurse fetch the doctor. Dr. Abrams was a weary man with kind eyes. "Your family?" he asked. "Mother-in-law. What's wrong with her?" "Severe bilateral pneumonia," he stated, his voice clinical yet heavy. "But that's just the crisis point. Her body is severely malnourished, dehydrated. It appears she was alone, without care, for quite some time. If a neighbor hadn't called after hearing a fall, he didn't need to finish." Each word was a stone dropped into the well of my soul. Alone. Without care. Where was her husband? "Can I see her?" He nodded. "A moment. She's on a ventilator." Lily lay in the high bed, a small, pale thing swallowed by tubes and wires. Her cheekbones were terrifyingly sharp, her skin nearly translucent. This wasn't just illness, it was the physical manifestation of profound indifference. The air grew thick, pressing on my lungs. I had to get out. I stumbled to the hospital's main entrance, gulping the cool evening air, trying to quell the rising scream within me. And then I saw it, the screech of tires, the roar of an engine. A massive, metallic gray SUV, the latest model, boasting safety and luxury, rounded the corner. The car I had bought Marcus for his birthday last month. "For the family, Mom. Safe for the future," he'd said. The windows were down. Deafening bass thumped from the speakers. And there he was, my son, Marcus, behind the wheel, his head thrown back in laughter. Two young women were in the passenger seats, shrieking with delight, their hair whipping in the wind. He sped past the very hospital where his wife lay dying without so much as a glance. He was the king of his hollow, pathetic world. My phone vibrated. A text illuminated the screen, the first from him in days. "Hey, Mom, swamped at the hospital with Lily. It's bad. Doctors are doing all they can. Haven't left her side. Pray for us." I stared at the glowing lie. The man who had just joyridden past his wife's deathbed was asking me for prayers. In that instant, something inside me didn't break, it crystallized. The final, frayed string of blind maternal devotion snapped with an almost audible ping. This was not my confused boy. This was a monster, cynical and secure in his cruelty. I didn't scream. Screaming is for the wounded. I felt only a terrifying, serene clarity. I walked back inside, asked the receptionist for water, and sat on a hard plastic chair. I needed 10 minutes to bury the son I thought I had. The plan formed with cold precision. The car. I had bought it, registered it in my name. On paper, it was my property. He drove it only by my silent consent, a consent that had just expired. I dialed 911. My voice was steady as stone. "I want to report a stolen vehicle." I gave the details. Make, model, license plate. "I just saw it on Martin Luther King Drive, heading downtown. The driver is behaving erratically, possibly under the influence. The passengers may be in danger." I hung up. My hand was steady. But that was just the start. Next, I called Eleanor, my attorney and oldest friend. She answered on the second ring. "Chloe, to what do I owe the pleasure?" "Eleanor, listen closely. I need you to draft a deed of gift for the condo on Maple. Tonight. Transferring it to Marcus? Finally making it official." "No." I cut in, my tone leaving no room for question. "To Lily. Sole and separate property." A weighted silence followed. Eleanor knew what that meant. "Chloe, are you sure? That's a monumental step." "I have never been more certain." "Have it ready by 8 a.m. and prepare a general power of attorney for me to manage the transfer. I'll pay triple your rush fee." "It'll be done," she said, her voice all business. About 20 minutes later, my phone rang. "Officer Henderson. Miss Chloe Bennett? We've detained a Sterling Vance driving your vehicle. He's claiming he's your son and you'll explain." In the background, I heard Marcus's distorted shout. "Call her. That's my mother." "Officer," I said, my gaze fixed on the ICU doors. "My son, Marcus, is currently at City General Hospital, sitting vigil by his dying wife's bedside. He hasn't left her. The man you have is a stranger to me and a liar. The line was quiet for a beat. Understood, ma'am. We'll proceed accordingly. The next 48 hours were a vigil of a different kind. I moved into the hospital, arranging for a private nurse, speaking with specialists, holding Lily's limp hand. Meanwhile, my phone buzzed with calls from the jail. I ignored them all. One voicemail slithered through. Mom, what is this? They say you reported it stolen. Bring the papers. Get down here and fix this. I'm with bums. Not a single question about Lily. While Lily slept her poison sleep, I went to the apartment. In a drawer, beneath linens, I found Lily's journal. It was a ledger of despair. Entries detailed him taking her money for business deals, selling her grandmother's heirloom ring, screaming that the apartment was his and she lived there on his sufferance. It was a blueprint of financial and emotional terror. I took it. It was my armor against any future moment of weakness. On the third morning, as a gray dawn bled through the windows, Lily's fingers twitched in mine. Her eyes fluttered open, clouded with sedation and fear. She saw me, and her lips moved beneath the oxygen mask. I leaned close. Don't let him in, she rasped, a tear tracing her temple. Please. Who, sweetheart? Marcus, she breathed, her voice a dry leaf. He turned off the heat, said it was too expensive. I was so cold. A wave of such pure, cold fury washed through me that I thought I might turn to ice. He hadn't just neglected her. He had actively, sadistically, made her suffering worse. I met Eleanor at her office at 8 sharp. You look like hell, Chloe, she said. But your eyes could start a fire. She slid the deed across the desk. Then, she placed a second, thinner folder next to it. I found something while pulling the title. Marcus applied for a high-interest loan last week. He used forged documents, a power of attorney with your signature, using the apartment as collateral. He was planning to gamble away the roof over your head and Lily's. The final puzzle piece slammed into place. That's where the money went. That's why he turned off the heat. The pen, Eleanor. I signed the deed with a hand that did not tremble. With each stroke, I disinherited the ghost of my son. File it immediately. Electronically. Next, I call the dealership. Alex, the gray SUV at the police impound. Pick it up. Sell it today. Wholesale, cash price. I don't care about the loss. Transfer every cent to City General Hospital, earmarked for Lily Bennett's care fund. Now he had nothing. As I returned to the hospital, my phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. They released me. I'm coming home. We need to talk. You owe me an explanation. He arrived at the hospital, not the apartment. He looked shattered, clothes disheveled, but his entitlement still clung to him like a cheap cologne. He stormed up to me in the lobby. What did you do? He hissed. You humiliated me. Give me my car keys. Now. The car is sold, I said calmly. The money is paying for Lily's treatment. His face contorted. You can't do that. It was mine. On paper, it never was. And you have no home to go to either. The apartment belongs to Lily now. I signed it over this morning. The color drained from his face. You're bluffing. Vita loves me. She'll fix this. He spun and lunged for the ICU door, throwing it open. Lily! Tell her! He was met not by a nurse, but by a private security guard I'd hired, a wall of a man who placed a hand on Marcus's chest and firmly pushed him back into the hall. Visitor is not authorized. Mama! Marcus wailed, turning back to me, the performance beginning. Tell him. I'm her husband. Take him away, I said, my voice quiet and final. The door shut. The mask of anger melted into one of calculated desperation. He fell to his knees in the corridor, grabbing my coat. Mommy, please, I'm sorry. I have debts. Bad people. They'll kill me. Just help me this once. Give me the apartment back. You can't let them kill your son. I looked down at him, the stranger weeping on my hem. Stand up. Not until you forgive me. Stand. Up. He rose, sniffling. I pulled out the copy of the filed deed. It's done, Marcus. And if you're thinking of waiting for an inheritance, I added, pulling out another document. Read this. It was my new will, leaving everything to a local women's shelter. You'd leave me nothing? For cats, he spat, his true face surfacing. Cats are loyal. They don't turn off the heat on the dying. Rage consumed him. He cursed me, threatened to contest everything, and then fled, not in shame, but in fury, straight to the apartment he thought he could still claim. But Eleanor and the locksmiths were already there, supervised by a police officer. He arrived to find his belongings in trash bags on the landing, the locks changed, and his key useless. His gold credit card, linked to my account, was frozen and swallowed by an ATM later that night. He was left on the street with 2 sacks of his old life, utterly penniless. 6 months passed. Autumn returned, but it was a different season, crisp, clean, and full of quiet promise. I sat on the balcony of the condo, which now smelled of acrylic paints and chamomile tea. Lily, wrapped in a blanket, worked on a watercolor at her easel. Color had returned to her cheeks, and a gentle light was back in her eyes. "I start at the library next week," she said, smiling. "In the archives department." "I'm so proud of you, darling," I said, meaning it with every fiber of my being. We were a new family, forged in the fire of betrayal. Later, walking to the bakery, I passed a car wash. There, in a soaked gray uniform, scrubbing mud from the tires of a massive truck, was Marcus. He was thinner, aged, his hands raw. He looked up and saw me. For a long moment, our eyes held across the distance and the chasm between us. In his, I saw only a hollow exhaustion. He took half a step, his mouth opening. I didn't stop. I didn't slow. I simply let my gaze pass over him as it would a stranger and continued my walk. My heart was still. The balance, in its own harsh way, was restored. My phone buzzed. A new message from an unknown number. "Mom. I get it now. I'm sorry. Please. Just $10 for food. Please." I read the words. Mom. Once the most precious word I knew. I opened the settings, selected block contact, and deleted the chat. The final thread was cut. I breathed in the autumn air, filled with the scent of coming rain and baked cinnamon, and walked home to my daughter. That is the story, my dear listeners. A story about the blinding nature of love and the painful clarity that sometimes follows. A story about how one woman, Chloe, had to choose between saving the son she bore and the daughter who needed her. And now I ask you, was I right? Is there a line where a mother's forgiveness becomes complicity? Would I have acted differently if he had simply been neglectful and not cruel? Some will say a mother's heart should always forgive. Others will say a man must reap what he sows. I look forward to hearing your thoughts in the comments below. Let me know where you're listening from. If this story resonated with you, please support the channel with a like and a subscription. Your support helps bring more true life stories to light. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you in the next story. With love and respect, Chloe.